Erre, srácok, üdv mindenkinek! Megpróbálom mindjárt megkeresni a POL 2 livestreamet, remélem megtalálom. Kérlek szépen... Pillanat. Előre nem találom. Milyen néven vannak ők? Nem látok ilyen online. Nem látok online. Ő mit néz? Ő már néz valamit. Ő mit néz? Vajon ő mit néz? Valaki köztetek? Tudja? Hogy mi van? Path of Exile itt van. Megvan.
Secrets of the ancient ritual. Discover new locations. And ultimately help Asala carry out her sacred duty. Now for Interlude 3. As royal thaumaturge of the Vaal, Doryani had plans within plans to save his people from the cataclysm perpetuated by Atzeri's lust for power. One such plan involved sealing a group of willing Vaal deep in a great mountain vault near the home of the Asmeri, deep enough to survive the cataclysm. Even though thousands of years have passed, he believes that their descendants may still live, and may be key to defeating the beast. The journey up the mountain will be dangerous. New foes stand in your way. And the further up the mountain you venture, the colder it will become. Explore caves of ice and enter the vault itself. Who can say what you will find within? The interludes are 6 to 7 areas each and generally include 4 boss fights as well. When you put that together with Act 4, that adds up to 35 new areas in the campaign and 24 new bosses. It's worth making clear that the interludes are the interludes will be going away. These are side stories after all. But don't worry, the bosses and areas that make up the interlude are all part of the endgame. We're not just going to throw them away. And with that, we don't need cruel difficulty anymore. We do know that it was a pretty big chore to have to play through the campaign multiple times on each character. And this was a huge reason that the campaign could feel like a bit of a slog when playing through again. But we do also have another new feature to address that particular concern as well. So let's talk about sprinting. In 030, when you hold down the dodge roll button, your character will go into a sprint after they finish the roll. This is available on all character classes, and there's no limitation on how long you can sprint. The primary purpose of this feature is to make navigating areas faster when out of combat. Because of that, if you do take a hit while sprinting, you'll fall to the ground. The best idea is to use a skill when you see monsters. That'll break you out of the sprint so you can engage with no danger. If you do need to run away from monsters, just hold spacebar. You won't be vulnerable during the roll, and you're faster while sprinting than basically any monster in the game, allowing you to retreat from combat. Sprint is a pretty significant change to PoE 2's gameplay. What I like most about it is that we can accelerate the pace of the game for those who want that, without having to compromise on PoE 2's more visceral combat systems. Okay, so that's the new extensions to the campaign, but there's a whole giant league to play through as well. I'll leave that to Mark to talk about later. And that's because what I want to talk about now is the new stuff for your characters. And probably one of the biggest new systems here is with the support gems. Now support gems are one of the most interesting elements to creating a build. They're what enables so many interesting mechanics and different ways to play. But PoE 2's support gem system has just never been quite right. One of the major issues is the limitation of only having one support gem of each type on your character.
Ne állj már meg! Aj! Nem áll, most miért áll meg? Halló? Nektek is megáll? Nem hiszem áll, nem áll.
Something needed to change. So with that in mind, we've removed the restriction of having one of each support gem per character. You can now use as many copies as you like.
Most már akármennyi ugyanolyan support gemet használsz a Karidnál, az jó?
And increase the amount of skill diversity.
Az jó?
There are a lot of potential builds that suffered from the previous restriction. For example, a poison build previously couldn't add poison to more than one skill. They couldn't use stacking poison on more than one skill.
Tehát most már például ugye tudsz stackelni poison dolgokat több skillhez is, erről beszél.
Many utility skills previously couldn't scale to endgame because the supports that would make them scale were more useful to use in other skills. You would never speed up killing palm with martial tempo when you would much rather
Gondolj
use
bele, hogy
it on
igen, hogy a attack speedet is mindegyikbe betelted, mindegyik skilledbe, az zsír. Az jó, az nekem tetszik, ez
In
jó.
addition to that though, we thought there wasn't enough feeling of progression in the supports as you went through the game. There were only 3 tiers of supports, and many of the most important ones were given out at tier 1. Also, there were no strict upgrades, meaning that upgrading supports when you ran out of sockets required quite a lot of thinking. In order to solve these issues, we now also have multiple levels of many supports as you go through the game. For example, double barrel support gives you an extra bolt, but at the cost of 30% less reload speed. At tier 2, the penalty gets lowered to 20%. But then at tier 3, the support gem gets something new. It now reloads automatically when you heavy stun an enemy. In some cases, the highest tiers might work a little differently, and you'll have to decide if you like the upgrade or not, depending on your build. For example, rapid casting. The first couple of levels gives 15, then 20% increased cast speed. But then at tier 3, it changes to a new approach. For each different spell you cast in the last 8 seconds, you get 10% increased cast speed, which could be a pretty big bonus if you use a lot of different spells. So that's pretty good for upgrades through the campaign, but we wanted to add a little more spice to the endgame for supports too. And that's where our new system, lineage supports, comes in. You can think of these like unique items, but for supports. There are supports that are only available at endgame, but they're much more powerful. Like Ratha's Assault. It's an upgraded version of Double Barrel that reloads your skill as you dodge roll, as well as increasing the number of bolts it can hold. But it does mean that's the only way you can reload the skill now. Now, unlike regular supports, you can't find these with the uncut support gem.
Dolgokat, amik tudnak segíteni ugye a fejlődésben, de ne álljon már meg.
Many of these can be found from specific bosses. And there's a ton in the regular drop pool too. Some of them are fairly rare. Others fairly common.
Hát lesznek új ilyen unikok, amik segítenek a campaign alatt.
Others are just straight up power upgrades.
Az király.
All in all, there's around 40 lineage supports being added throughout the endgame. So there's a lot of power to find out there.
Látjuk a személy, hogy ilyen fejlesztő fajta.
The new support gems are certainly going to open up a lot of builds, but of course we have a huge range of improvements to individual character classes as well. As well as adding new skills, we had a big focus on buffing existing skills so that they can scale well into the endgame.
Na,
There's a huge amount to cover here.
skill change-ek. Na lássuk, mert hogy jobban scale-elődnek majd endgame-re, azt mondja, azt úgy csinálják meg. Na az mondjuk kellett.
We wanted to make cold a more useful element on the ranger, so we've expanded the cold tools available. As well as increasing its range, Escape Shot now creates fragments of ice whenever it hits the ground. These fragments explode after a short time, making the skill better for killing groups of enemies. But not only that, we added an ice fragment support that creates more of them when killing frozen enemies.
Hát ez nem volt annyira effektív, mondjuk kiválasztottak volna valami jobb videót is.
This already gives clear to rangers wanting to use ice. But to take further advantage of the ice fragments, Freezing Salvo has been upgraded to shoot additional cold arrows towards every fragment, giving you a nuke-like ability.
Az igen, az kapta hal.
Also modified Snipe to consume frozen
Nem tudjuk milyen karakterrel,
more
de...
damage, giving you a nice ice single target option. And something you might notice about this is that the bonus is a lot higher against bosses.
Nem látjuk mekkora a player, az a baj.
The entire game. Since it's a lot harder to freeze a boss, you should get a bigger reward for it.
Az igen.
Another theme you'll see throughout the game is making movement feel better. Toxic Growth is a skill that was pretty cool, but a bit annoying to use with the jump that it had.
Az a baj, ennél jobban akarnak zúzni az emberek, mondjuk ez még nem endgame content, itt amit csinál.
And we've also added a new poison skill while we were at it, called Toxic Domain. It creates a small area around you that makes all your attacks create toxic growth pustules that attach to monsters. Another skill that was annoying to use was Electrocuting Arrow.
Hát ha lesz druide, én tuti druidával megyek.
But it also means you can support it with projectile supports. And it now also has area of effect, making it a tool for more
gondolom bejelentenek valamit majd.
To scale into the endgame. We also added a new spirit reservation called Mirage Archer. This is a meta skill that allows you to create shadowy clones of yourself to use a skill of your choice. Of course, one of the other big problems the ranger had was survivability. Evasion was the weakest of the 3 defenses, and we wanted to change that.
Meg fog halni.
Currently, evasion doesn't evade all types of hits in the game, so you're still vulnerable to things like slams or unblockable attacks. To make evasion characters more tanky, we're adding a new mechanic called deflect. Unlike evasion, deflect works on everything, and if you successfully deflect a hit, you take 40% less damage. Items can now give you a mod that gives you some amount of deflection based on your evasion. And there's a bunch of it available on the passive tree too.
Tehát lesz ez deflection, és hogyha deflektálod, akkor 40%-kal kevesebb damage-et kapsz be, a zsír.
And unlike evasion, there's no maximum chance. You can reach 100% deflect against all hits if you spec into it enough.
Az igen, lehet 100% is, hogyha ráspetszelsz.
And the monk, but especially the huntress are seeing big defense boosts from this as well.
Király. Hát kell, mert a defense ugye az nagyon gáz volt. Ja, a defense-zel voltak problémák. Hát kérdés, hogy ez majd mennyire oldja ezt meg.
One of the big reasons for this is there's a lot of hits that are not blockable, and thus not parryable either. So a huge balance change we're making is that now everything is blockable, except for specifically unblockable red flash skills that
az igen, hallod? És lehet blokkolni a pajzsalig ezt a nagy ütést is a mobnak.
Much more reliable.
Az
and not only
komoly.
that, but to make block and parry nicer to use, you now also move faster than before while using
Hát
these
érted,
abilities.
megint az van, hogy ez...
This is a massive buff to passive block as well.
Senki nem akar így játszani, hogy ő blokkolgatja az ütéseket, egyszerűen csak bírja ki a karakterem, az zúzzak, mint az állat, nem?
Fire skills on the warrior were not really cutting the mustard, so we decided we needed to upgrade a bunch of them, but also add some more as well.
Hát mondjuk ez...
Let's start with a buff.
Ez megint az, hogy én biztos nem akarok ilyen karaktert, ahol én nekem itt blokkolgatnom kell pajzsal. Az király volt. Azt láttad, hogy oda dobta, hallod? Csak ez is lassú, az a baj. Tehát, hogy kicsit lassú.
Volcanic fishes re-trigger when you slam them. So it's a great skill to make a flaming arena to fight a boss.
Hát azért az baj, ha egy gombos egy kari szerintem, tehát ne legyen egy gombos, de nem akarok blokkolni egyszerűen. Nem
and
akarok.
changed molten blast do not always force you to move forward. Trust me, it feels a lot better to use now. The skill now has massively boosted chance to ignite monsters as well.
Hát ez se tűnt túl effektívnek.
And you're going to want to ignite monsters due to a new glory skill called Ancestral Cry.
Hát senki nem fog vele szórakozni szerintem. Blokkolgatással.
After you do, use it to channel Calm's ancestral power.
Na ez király volt. Ez nem tudom mit csinál, de ez király volt. Na ez már úgy néz ki, mint egy játék. Na ez igen. Oda nézzél. Az igen. Na ez már bejön.
Warrior shield skills are another area we wanted to improve. Now that we've got sprint, we actually don't need to have a cooldown on shield charge anymore. And now also does more damage the further away you are when you use it.
Micsoda? Nincs rajta cooldown? Nincs rajta cooldown a shield charge-on. Lehet csinálni shield charge-os warrior. Ez király. Oda nézzél. Az de király. Na ilyet biztos valaki fog csinálni, valami OP-t, hallod? Ez király. Anyád, de ez jó. Ez tetszik. Ez tetszik.
And magma barrier now doesn't require timing in order to use. Just wait for your shield to charge up and block.
Az igen. Hallod, fölcharge-olta a shieldet, láttad? Csazzal ölte meg őket. Na, az is érdekes.
And we changed the Sunder interaction with armor break. It now also gives a sundered armor debuff that makes enemies take 40% extra physical damage. Great for bosses.
Azt kapta, hallod? Ez konkrétan 3 ütésből fél HP-n volt a boss.
We wanted the skill to feel more like using an ultimate.
Ez királyul néz ki, ez a magma cucc.
So we've changed this totem to require 3 endurance charges to summon, and massively buffed its damage. It also now scales your weapon damage too.
Az giga OP.
Since there's no limit anymore, if you build around generating endurance charges, you can summon an entire forest of totems.
Mennyire durva már, hallod?
In order to make that easier, we added some new sources of endurance charges. There's now a support to make perfect strike generate charges, and a support for generating endurance charges from heavy stuns as well.
Upheaval barba? Hát azért ez nem olyan volt, vagy ilyen már a D4-be is, azt nem vágom.
Among the other changes we've made to this class, Answered Call now gives an extra totem,
ugye,
and the
de?
spirits have just been generally buffed
nekem
in
is
many
tetszik.
ways. Use it with your limitless ancestral warrior forest to make an army of Karui that would make Tugahama proud. We've also merged the Great Wolf Howl and Warcaller's Bellow support, so that you can get all the benefits with 1 point. And Encased in Jade no longer removes the Jade when getting hit, making it a much better defense.
Az de király.
Next up, let's talk about accuracy. Accuracy was always intended to be something that warriors didn't need to care about very much so long as they're in close combat. But unfortunately, that's not currently the case. This was particularly annoying with skills like Bone Shatter, which you certainly don't want to mess with. So we significantly buffed your chance to hit at close ranges when you don't have much accuracy. Warriors shouldn't require any accuracy investment in order to hit with close range attacks now. We also wanted to improve armor. Now, one of the major weaknesses of armor is the inability to defend against elemental damage. In order to mitigate this, we're adding a lot more of the stat that allows your armor to defend against elemental damage. It's now available on items and in a lot more places on the passive tree.
Oh. Aha. Kap egy olyat a Varri, hogy az elemental damage ellen többet tud védekezni, az zsír. Mert nyilván az ellen nem nagyon tudod. Movement penalty-t levonja izéből. Ijászok örülni fognak neki, ez biztos.
This change benefits everyone, not just crossbow skills. With both of these changes put together, the run and gun playstyle feels much better. It's hard to explain how important this change is for the feel of the class. The Mercenary is also a good chance to talk about how we're rebalancing to make comboing skills much better. Take Shock, for example. It buffs damage and lasts 4 seconds right now, but that isn't really giving you enough time to take advantage of it.
If you're going to add a lightning skill to a build that
otherwise wouldn't use one, we need to make mechanics like this much better. So we've increased shock duration on monsters to last 8 seconds. And skills like Plasma Blast, which are intended to be good at shocking enemies, now increase the damage bonus by a lot more. You'll find changes like this all around the game. Chill now lasts 8 seconds, giving you more of a reason to weave in cold damage.
Nagyon lassan lő ez így, ez annyira nem fun.
Burning skills need to cause burns that last longer. But making skills like Permafrost Bolts and Incendiary Shot double down on how they're supposed to be used, it makes using them in your build alongside other skills much more likely.
Úgy nyilván most egy-két dolgot nem értek így rögtön ilyen gyorsan, már úgy értve, hogy nem tudok mindent felfogni. Feltétlen majd még utána nézzünk a patch notes-ba, hogy mik lesznek, de...
And using high velocity rounds with armor break will now fragment the opponent's armor. This causes monsters to take a portion of high velocity rounds damage with every subsequent hit, even tiny pellets. So that means following it with a shotgun blast is way more effective.
Az igen, hallod? Az igen.
Now there's a lot more buffs to crossbow skills, but for now I'm just going to talk about the new one we added, the Mortar Cannon. This one lets you socket any grenade skill, and using it will summon a cannon which loads and then fires the grenade you choose.
Igen, ez kérdés, endgame-ben ez mit fog tudni, mert ezek a passzívok, hogy kirakszod egy mortárt, ezeket én sose szerettem ezekbe a játékokba. Például a D3-ba is az íjász, akivel leteszed a csapdákat, ami ott ütöget, azt se szerettem soha. Nem szerettem ilyennel játszani.
On which one of the main focuses was making various minion types more useful to use together. Melee minions in particular were just not that great compared to ranged ones. As a starting point, we just straight up removed the requirement for minions to have accuracy. Attack minions now always hit, which makes them way better.
Noppá! A minionokat, aki always hit, azért az kemény, nem kell hozzá accuracy.
A new command skill where they do a war cry that intimidates enemies and detonates any frozen monsters and allies around you.
Na ez király! Juhuhu! Az jó!
We've also changed the Frost Mage's command skill to an ability that adds ice armor to your other minions, adding a layer of defense.
Az igen.
And it makes them deal cold damage back to the attacker as well. The ice armor also makes the minion count as frozen, so the Brute's war cry can detonate them too. Unearth was changed to work on corpses of your dead skeletons, allowing you to summon the minions more easily in boss fights. And they also got a new jump ability, allowing them to get into combat faster. Ray's Spectre was also feeling pretty weak for the spirit cost they have. To be honest, we were a little afraid of these when we first balanced them. We've both decreased the spirit cost for a large range of monsters, and have significantly increased Spectre damage too. They should feel a lot more impactful.
Hát ez mennyire kemény győzsök, szaladgázok, lövöldöznek, oda nézzél már. Nem már! Halló! Jézusom. Hallod? Miért csinálja ezt?
Rake enemies with the scythe to cull them instantly, healing you. It can also inflict critical weakness on enemies too. Now, there's a lot of balance changes in the Witcher's Ascendancy classes, but I'll just talk about 2 of them for now. On the Blood Mage, you were previously required to spend your first points on Sangomancy, which really was supposed to be the downside for being able to access the powerful abilities on the rest of the class. In order to make picking the Blood Mage a better early option, we've made Sangomancy free, unlocking the power of the rest of the class immediately. On the Infernalist, the Demon form wasn't something people were really using because you lost your weapon stats while transformed. Well, you no longer do, so it's a much better option now.
Nem veszed el a weapon izédet, skilljeidet, hogy mi a attribútumaidat, hogyha átváltozol, azt
Staggering
mondja?
palm can now stack up its duration if you use the skill multiple times in a row. So you can keep the effect of all your skills throwing up wind much more easily. Wind Blast had the purpose of building up to dazing an enemy, but dazing
Hát ezt nem hiszem
just
el.
wasn't worth all that effort. Now it just dazes on hit, meaning a single Wind Blast will make all your skills stun enemies more easily. Following up with Vaulting Impact on a dazed enemy previously did a bunch of stun. Now it allows you to break your enemy's stance. When their stance is broken, following up with a fast attack will do way more damage. A cool build that certain people always enjoyed in PoE 1 was hand-to-hand combat, but until now we just didn't have a real way to make it viable. Well, that changes now. The monk, as a true martial artist, now has the ability to learn the hollow palm technique, a keystone that lets you use all quarterstaff skills while unarmed. All quarterstaff attacks now have a special unarmed version, and you get further bonuses to all your attacks from stacking energy shield and evasion on your
Hello,
character.
mi? Az de komoly, hallod? Wow.
A new keystone we
Az
also added to the
baszónak
monk section
tűnt a
of the tree
monk.
is Walker of the Wilds.
Uhú!
This changes mana leech to work with
Na
elemental
így is
damage
van, na
instead of
most
physical,
indulunk be. Itt
which
a
is pretty
monk.
useful
Na
for
ez
those
király!
elemental attacks the monk has.
Wow.
But it works well for the ranger too.
Na ez igen.
Now,
Ó, én
one
ilyet
of the least
akarok.
used ascendancy classes in the game is the Acolyte of Chayula.
Na ez
So we knew we needed
ez
to
már
make some
valami
changes
volt.
here. One of the key things we had to do was make the chaos damage that the Acolyte can do much more useful. So we've added a new skill, allowing chaos damage to ignite, shock, chill, and freeze, embracing the
Hát
elemental
ez
powers of
olyan,
the monk in a
megint
truly
olyan
chaotic
meh.
fashion.
Másik mennyivel jobb volt
In
már.
addition, he can make all of his chaos damage leech. And we've buffed Into the Breach and Embrace the Darkness by moving the effects of the 4-point nodes into the base skills. He also gains a new notable, Grasp of the Void, which leaves void illusions behind you as you dodge roll. If they're killed, they do massive explosions of darkness, dealing damage to everything in sight. Now let's talk about Sorceress skills.
Na, csak a
One of the
sorci.
things we wanted to improve on the Sorc is the ability to use multiple elements together more effectively. Now, this might seem small, but one of the things pushing you towards using a single element is debuffs like elemental curses, which lower resistances of a single element. In order to fix that, we're making quite a lot of game-wide changes to these kinds of mechanics to broaden what they apply to. So for example, there's no longer 3 curses for fire, ice, and lightning. Instead, there's just a single curse that buffs all 3 at the same time. And things like Frost Bomb, which gave you cold exposure, now give elemental exposure. You can use it to buff any of your other skills. We also wanted to make switching between different weapon sets smoother, so you can use different elemental staves more effectively. To do that, we've removed the weapon switch time, and now happens instantly. This applies game-wide too. Now we didn't just want to stop there. We wanted to add some specific mechanics that work between different elements, and that's where
Hát ugye a
elemental
monk az
infusions come in.
baszóbb volt.
Certain skills can now drop elemental infusions. For example, when a frost bomb explodes, it leaves behind a cold infusion on the ground.
Hát ez megint ilyen statikus, én azért nem szeretem, ezek ilyen statikus skillek, oda dobod a földre, nem jók ezek. Miért
Spark will create a
ilyeneket
node of cold
csinálnak?
infused projectiles.
Ez már jobban, ez már jobbnak. Na ez már jobbnak tűnik.
Ice Nova will leave a chilled area on the ground.
Igen, lassú, igen.
And we also added a new low-level skill that fires ice shards. Use it with cold infusion though, and the ice shards will explode. Orb of Storms now generates lightning infusions when you cast enough spells near it.
Ezek a kiteszem és átlövök
That's
rajta,
all
én
spells,
ezt
by the
sose
way, not just
értettem. Miért? Nem
Once you
kell
have
ilyen a
one, you could cast a
mágusnak.
lightning
Hát
flame wall, which adds both fire
lőjön
and lightning
kibaszott
damage to all
jó
the projectiles that pass through.
fireballokat, amik szétoszlanak és falról visszapattannak, hogy mit tudom én, nem?
Which will generate arcs to nearby enemies
Jó,
as
a
each
sztoriban
fireball
még
hits.
elmegy, ja. De endgame-ben ez lassú.
Or maybe go lightning on lightning with arc. This skill is now a projectile, and by infusing it, you can go full Palpatine. Get fire infusions by blowing up monsters with living bomb.
Meg legyen érted olyan, mint a Fire Blast például a D3-ban, hogy így magad körül, érted, ahogy futsz, nem kapsz movement penalty-t, és valami robban körülötted például, és akkor csak szaladsz előre, meg lősz magadból. Ilyeneket kellene csinálni. Ezek a hülye izék, ezek amikor ilyen Rain of akármi, ezek is, hát nem tudom, én nem szeretem ezeket. Még csak beeltetésnél járunk, jó, rendben, akkor nem leszek annyira hamari.
but now it works to detonate all of the different elemental ailments and makes them leave behind infusions.
Ha lesz druid, akkor
And
jönnöd
just like
kell,
how you
Bugi.
could previously use it on
Ha nem lesz
Frostbite,
druid,
you
akkor
can
is.
now also use it on Orb of Storms and Solar Orb to detonate those as well, which means you can create many infusions at once.
Voldi, hello, Voldi erős, köszi szépen a
You also have a
követést,
Spirit
üdv a
Reservation
csatornán.
skill and a support gem to help generate them too.
Anélkül is jön, így van. Így van.
On the passive tree, we've added quite a few new keystones to the Sorceress section. Here are a couple of examples. The Black Flame Covenant keystone converts your fire spells to chaos and causes your ignites to deal chaos damage. Your fire spells and ignites will also turn purple. The Ritual Cadence keystone causes your invocation skills to trigger more times, but makes them trigger periodically over a longer duration instead of one.
Mondjuk az még azt
Those
mondom
auto-bomb
valami.
builds.
Ez
Now, in
megint...
addition to skill changes, we've added a lot more options for the passive tree for each
Hát eddig a
class.
monk győzött meg
Overall,
azért,
there
meg
are
a
more than
varri.
100 new notables on the tree,
Nyilván.
usually around 20 per class, along with smaller clusters as well. Check out the old version, and here's the new version. It's a
Wow.
lot more dense, and there's
Oda
more
nézz.
interesting nodes than
Ha
before.
mennyi nódot beraktak, azt rohadt,
Now, we
oda
probably
nézz.
can't go through too many of these in the live stream, so I'll just show you one
Az
from each
király
class's
lesz.
area of the tree. We tried to be a lot more thematic with the new nodes. So, for example, the Molten One's Gift. It lets the benefit of armor break apply to your fire damage. Or how about Last Stand, which gives you lots of stats as your situation becomes more and more desperate. A lot of these have themes aligning with ascendancy classes. Like for the Gemling Legionnaire, for example. You have crystallized immunities, which makes you immune to different status ailments depending on which support gem color you have socketed the most. Another ascendancy class aligned notable is Sanguimatic Rituals. It allows arcane surges to generate life instead of mana, unlocking that support gem to be used with the Blood Mage Ascendancy. In the Sork area, you'll find these Archon nodes that allow you to convert all of your elemental damage to a specific element. You become a Lightning Archon when you spend enough mana, after which all your skills will be converted to lightning, and you will do extra lightning damage as well.
Az
We have
király.
ones for cold and fire too, with different triggers.
Ezt már jobb szeretem.
Here's another cool one. Elemental Practitioner gives crit bonuses if you've triggered a skill recently, while also making crits generate more energy for triggers. Or maybe you'd like the Great Boar. It gives you a reason to stack dexterity to make you tougher, giving a bonus to life and stun threshold. Or the Cunning Fox. It straight up gives you 5% quality to all your gems. Now, another major change is attribute requirements. We felt like players probably had a few too many nodes and attributes and not enough in interesting passives.
Aha.
So we lowered attribute requirements by
király.
25% across the
Na
board.
ez jó, ez jó, ez jó. Hogy
That
az
means you'll have
attribute
more points to spend on
requirementeket
interesting
csökkentik,
notables
az
rather
jó.
than just needing to
Mert
allocate
azzal
more
mindig
strength,
baj
dex,
volt,
and-
emlékezzetek vissza.
Now there are way more changes than just these. These
Végre
are just some of the
élőben,
cool
eddig
ones we wanted to show
szkamadásokat
off.
daráltad.
But I'd say that's
Úgy
just
mondja,
about enough for
imádom.
now.
Remélem
We're not
lesz
even
még
half done yet.
folytatása. Free egy
So I think
állat.
it's time that we talk about the league,
hát,
the rise of the abyssal. And to do that, I'd like to
beszélünk
hand
majd
things over to
róla.
Mark.
Beszélünk majd róla.
As you just saw, even though there are major changes to the campaign for this update, we want to make sure that every time you come back for an expansion, each area feels different with something extra going on. It is really important to make sure your experience when returning between expansions is fresh and filled with new content. And the way we did this was through leagues. Every expansion we make has a league, which not only has a fresh economy, but also has new content exclusively available in that league. So, let's delve into the details of what Path of Exile 2's first official league is bringing to the table.
Na, First
The
Official League
Abyssal are
most
a
jön,
race that have
gyerekek.
mastery of forbidden magics and necromancy. They were thought to be extinct, but have merely been biding their time underground. You first encounter signs of the Abyssal in Clairfell, where you discover that during the night, weaker members of the Undead Legion have been attacking the encampment. The townsfolk require your help to investigate where the monsters are coming from and put a stop to their attacks.
Out there, ancient creatures, lurking beneath the surface.
As you proceed through Rayclast, you'll find fissures in the earth connected to larger pits. The monsters normally inhabiting the area are being affected by it, harmed by it even, having their souls eaten to strengthen the abyssal underground. As you defeat the monsters, the fissure closes and abyssal emerge, angered by you killing their food. Once all those fissures have been sealed, the pit activates, and more abyssal pour out. This is where the larger and more dangerous monsters reveal themselves, as hordes of abyssal spew out from the pit to take your soul. If you kill a magic pack, then magic abyss will arise. If you kill a rare, then a rare monster will emerge from the pit, having absorbed some or all of its modifiers for itself. This means the monsters emerging will generally be more difficult and more rewarding, as each modifier gives better rewards. If you are able to kill them all, the pit will seal shut. As each pit is closed, it reveals a potential reward. Abyssal troves will rise up out of the pits, allowing you to get some epic loot.
Az igen.
Areas often contain many pits, with many fissures, and the amount goes up as you progress through the game, getting more intense.
Wow, azok mit kaptak a monstól, te?
When monster mods are absorbed, they have a chance to become
Na, ez
infused with
igen.
the dark necromancy, transforming them into abyssal modifiers. For example, you defeat this monster with the mana siphoner modifier. Their soul is eaten by the pit, and a rare monster emerges. The mana siphoner modifier has transformed into soul siphoner, and is now amplified in danger and reward.
Oh, what
Abyssal
happened?
pits also interact with other monsters and mechanics.
Jó, hát egyértelmű. Tehát, hogy hallod, egyértelmű monk és warrior gyakorlatilag.
Multiple abyssal modifiers. Lichborn exiles even have their own unique jewel they can drop, if you are lucky enough to encounter and kill them. If an abyss spawns near a boss, killing it will summon a
De akkor nem volt jó,
gigantic
Bugi. Nem volt jó.
creature.
Hidd már el.
Monsters imprisoned in essences near abyssal pits are affected by the abyss too. They will come with an additional new essence item that can be used to craft your items. So, that's your bread and butter of the Abyssal League. Kill surface-dwelling monsters, kill the emerging Abyssal, close the fissures, overcome pit encounters, and reap the rewards. There's a lot more to this league, however. As you complete Abysses, you can find ancient pieces of bone, preserved from the remains of fallen Lichborn. These are one of the many rewards for your mission to seal
Szóval
the
a,
pits.
visszatérve egy kicsit a scamra, most nem tudok róla sokat beszélni, mert oda akarok figyelni erre, de nem tudom, hol tartasz, Voldi, a scam videókkal, vagy a streammel, de hát történt egy más, és sajnos a scamban a PvP-t, meg a stream az nem, egyszerűen nem jön össze ez a kettő. Úgyhogy hát gondolkozom rajta, hogy lehetne ezt folytatni. Majd beszélünk róla, de ja, hát lassan akkor a végénél jár sajnos, és azóta nem is volt scam, nem véletlenül.
Before throwing it in, you are given the option of how you want to transform it, in the form of a choice of 3 different modifiers.
Oh.
Once you've chosen your desired mod, throw it in, where it will absorb the power of the souls, and the ominous creature will then retrieve it for you. These modifiers can be ones from the core mod pool, all the way through to specialized modifiers that cannot normally appear on items. During the campaign, you can use it as a way to more easily add useful existing mods, but during the endgame, there is a whole set of new and powerful mods you can add to your items. Like this mod for crossbows, that allows you to place an additional ballista totem.
Meg hát a végén mondom, majd lesz egy adás, az már nem is scam adás volt, hanem talán egy tarkovadás, ahol elmesélem, ha akarod, majd megkeresem, hogy melyik, és akkor megnézheted, ahol összefoglaltam, hogy mik történtek, és akkor abból majd rájössz, hogy miért nem tudok PvP-t streamelni scamban.
You can get some new modifiers that push difficulty and rewards to new heights.
Az igen, hallod?
Here are some examples of those mods.
Ezt értelmezni se tudom milyen
You always get a
gyorsan.
choice of 3, so you can avoid anything you don't think your character is capable of.
Az kemény.
With this modifier, the natural inhabitants of the area
Hát azt hagyjál, de hogy gembe is rakhatsz reptile.
And there are up to 9 additional abyssal pits.
Erről is beszéltem már, Voldi. Nem lehetne, mert ha késleltetem a streamet, akkor meg veletek nem tudok beszélni a nézőkkel. Szóval az meg, én olyan streamet nem akarok, ahol nem tudok a nézőkkel beszélni. Jó, de ő nem volt itt, Bugi, nem volt itt.
There are dozens of these waystone modifiers in total you can get from this crafting.
Hát ezt mindenen túl vagyunk már, Voldi, elhiheted, és
Well,
Egyszerűen,
we talked
és
about
már
how
nem
when
csak
closing
nálam,
pits you can get abyssal
nem csak nálam,
trolls.
más
But
streamereknél is
sometimes when
ugyanez a
closing this,
tapasztalat, hogy
you'll reveal
ameddig
an
a játék nem
underground
lesz,
cavern that leads to the
nincs
abyssal
benne
depths.
streamer option, hogy ne lássanak,
After
ne
jumping
lássák
into
a
the
mapet
depths,
alapból,
you'll find an
stb.
abyssal
Persze
city,
azt meg lehet oldani, hogy
swarming with
kikapcsoljuk,
legions of the undead.
de hogy ne tudják, hogy melyik szerverre játszol, stb. Addig esélyed nincs, hogy ne stream snipe-oljanak, már pedig így nem lehet játszani egyszerűen a játékkal. De bocs, most odafigyelünk a POL 2-re.
Once you're able to defeat this powerful rare, you can also find some nice rewards. Aside from the entire area being valuable due to the abyssal modifiers on the monsters, it has its own specific drops too. One example is a set of lineage supports that can rarely be found in these depths, like Kurgle's
Ez olyan, mint
Leash.
a D4-be nem?
This support
Olyan volt,
empowers
mint az
both
az
you
Infernal
and your
Horde,
minions when
nem?
you
Vagy
command
valami
them,
ilyesmi.
granting unholy might to you both. Another depth-specific outcome is a set of omen-like items that amplify your abyssal crafting. Additionally, we're adding some new socketables that can drop from the abyssal depths.
Még nincs
Take
új kari.
Orleman's Gaze, which can be
Új
socketed into your
sztori,
armor.
lesz,
These
első
are a bit
official
special
league
in that
lesz
you can only have one
gyakorlatilag.
equipped at a time, but give some pretty powerful effects.
Ja, nem baj, csak most
Think of
erre
them as
próbálunk
almost a
odafigyelni,
unique
mert most
socketable for
ezt
your
nézzük. Aztán, hogyha lesz olyan stream, ahol
In
most
the
majd
endgame,
tarkovozok,
where you can
nézd
still
be, és
find
akkor megbeszéljük, mert
you
ott lesz
also
rá
start to find
lehetőség.
a different type of
Egyébként.
underground chamber. In these areas, you'll find an ancient spire, a device being used by commanders of the abyssal factions to plunge Rayclast into a lightless void.
Eddig arról volt szó
Your goal
egyébként,
is simple. Kill this
hogy
commander
skillekben,
and destroy the
gemekben
spire.
milyen változások jönnek, gearben, passzív skill pontokban rengetegféle új dolog lesz, eszméletlen, új unikok, amik segítenek.
An example is this belt, Darkness Enthroned. It has 2 sockets. But hold on, socketables don't work on belts. Well, this belt has a special mod that allows it to count as a different slot for the purpose of socketables. This one, for example, counts as a helmet. I kind of want one that counts as a body armor. I wonder how rare that one is.
Az igen.
You can also find this unique jewel, Undying Hate. This jewel transforms part of your passive skill tree into an abyssal version and has
Wow!
multiple depths. The deeper it
Wow!
goes, the more of your passive tree is affected,
Az de
allowing you
király.
to fulfill your fantasy of becoming part Abyssal Lich.
Legalábbis így első blikre ez jónak tűnik.
Now, the last thing that Abyssal Commanders can drop is a
Nyilván majd
finger of the
leteszteljük.
Lich. But what use do you
Ja,
have with a
csomó
random
újdonság.
undead finger? Well, the next time you return to the Well of Souls, with the finger in your inventory, your character will almost feel compelled. To do what, though, you might ask? To jump in. The items you threw in came back more powerful, right? So, what's the worst that could happen? Well, you will just have to find that one out for yourself. Along with the introduction of Act 4 and the interlude, we will be adding 25 new endgame maps. These maps will contain all the new monsters and bosses we're adding, improving
New
variety
tessék.
and giving you opportunities to experience the new boss fights many times. Let's take a look at some examples. Rock Pools is a map where you explore a shallow rocky coastline, surrounded by coral and filled with sirens. At the end is a giant goblin king boss,
Új, de undorít.
ready to eat sulfite and squish you
Hogy
like a
játszik
bug.
a kis petjeivel, hallod? Lol. Jézusom.
Holton is an Ezomite township which has seen better days.
Hát ezen
Explore
nem...
and clear the township to find a gothic, reaper-like boss.
Hát ez
with the
kb.
ability to
Ctrl-C,
manipulate
Ctrl-V-zték
storms
ezeket
and
a
fire with both
helyszíneket,
lightning
nem?
and wither you with chaos.
Vagy én rosszul látom, most nem akarok tényleg genya lenni. Na bazd meg. Nem akarok genya lenni, de olyan, mint hogyha ezeket Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V-zték volna ezeket a helyszíneket, baszki.
Regular map bosses. Instead, we'll be adding some new mechanics to the Atlas that use them.
Hát miért áll meg?
These start appearing pretty fast into the endgame and will help bridge the gap until you do your pinnacle bosses. In the desert biome, you can encounter a wild sandstorm. 3 maps around the sandstorm contain a
vannak,
device you must
srácok.
activate. Upon doing this, the sandstorm's magic is disrupted, revealing the map inside and allowing you to access it and find the cause. This presents itself in the form of a boss, similar to the existing Citadel bosses. This boss is a Faradin Swordmaster, who has been blessed with the power of a time djinn, allowing him to take his swordsmanship to the next level by replicating himself, maneuvering rapidly, and severing the fabric of time itself with his powerful slashes. In the water biome, you'll encounter a giant maelstrom, where one of the maps surrounding the water biome connects to it, but the connection is obscured. You must run the maps nearby, hoping to
Nálam is
find a
doppok vannak.
which will remove the
Azzal át kell
maelstrom
írnom.
and reveal the connection to that map. Another example is this Vaal vault in the mountain biome. But how do we get inside? Running the adjacent maps to it will yield a key, which you can then use to gain access to this vault. Or, you could just trade for one, I guess. Use the key to dispel the powerful force field surrounding it, leading to the Vaal Elite and their rewards inside. These all contain Uber versions of the Act 4 boss, and the bosses at the end of each part of the interlude. And each have their own exclusive drop pool of new lineage supports, which, as Jonathan spoke about earlier, are powerful support gems that modify your skills in pretty crazy ways. As an example of a lineage support which can come from the Faradin Swordmaster mentioned earlier, we have Garo Khan's Resolve, which causes your critical strikes to fork.
117 000 nézik az
on
official.
your part to properly enable.
Konkrétan.
From the boss sealed in the Vaal Vault, we have Paquate's Pact, which supports your war cries, causing them to inflict massive amounts of corrupted blood at the cost of your own life. Additionally, some maps can now spawn summoning circles, a room resembling an Ezomite henge. Activating this henge will spawn bosses. It's as simple as that. We'll also be making changes to how affixes on waystones work, as the current prefixes equals good, suffixes equals bad iteration isn't quite hitting the mark. We tried something new here in Path of Exile 2, but after seeing the feedback we decided we actually liked what we had in Path of Exile 1 more. Like Path of Exile 1, each affix will now be both difficult and rewarding. Waystone mods now grant an increase to the number of waystones dropped, and an additional specific upside attached to it. This means as you roll your map, they will continue to get more difficult and more rewarding, and allow you to customize the difficulty and rewards of your maps better. For example, the Frostbitten mod, which causes enemies to deal cold damage, also increases the rarity of items dropped as its upside. Whereas the Of Venom suffix modifier, which causes enemies to poison on hit, has the upside of granting increased pack size.
Király! Na ez zsír,
Some
ez
maps will
zsír.
end up having a lot of rarity,
Kicsit
some a lot of
megváltoztatják
pack
az
size,
endgame-et is,
and
nagyon
others will
jó.
just have a mixture of everything.
Ez tetszik.
Due to now having more modifiers granting difficulty, we will of course be reducing the difficulty per modifier to account for this. So, that's your Atlas, maps, and Waystones, but what about Breach, Ritual, Pinnacle content, and others of the sort? We're making some changes around this too. The first change is that you'll now be able to invest 2 points into your specific League Atlas trees before having to run the Pinnacle content. There will be a specific objective for each type of content which grants you those points. For example, in the case of Delirium, it's simple. You just need to find and kill one of the bosses in a map,
Ez beteg.
Omniphobia or Kosis. The rest of the points for each content come from the Pinnacle content, but we're making some changes to accessibility here too. Currently, access to most Pinnacle content requires the same key at the easiest and most difficult version of the content.
Yeah.
This creates a negative feeling where at lower difficulties, instead of wanting to run the content, you're often better off just selling it to someone who can run it at maximum difficulty. To address this, each content will now drop splinters, which will not form into singular items. Instead of using the singular combined item in the realm gate, you can now just bring your splinters. Upon inserting the splinters into the realm gate, an interface will appear, allowing you to pick your difficulty, and you'll notice each difficulty has a different entry cost.
Oh,
This means if you want to run easier
G'day.
difficulties, it costs less, which also allows you to run this content much sooner into the
oh,
game.
de jó, Istenem, de
Because
jó.
these encounters now just require splinters, Their
Nem
corresponding
kell
atlas tree no
szarakodni, hogy
longer
visszavedd a
affects the
pontokat,
difficulty,
érted? Ah,
and has been
Istenem.
changed to purely affect the content and maps on the
Na
atlas.
ez jó
The
változtatás.
Arbiter of Ash works a bit differently. Instead of requiring splinters, he still needs crisis fragments. We now have only two difficulties of the Arbiter. The first, requiring the existing fragments obtained from citadels. The second, Uber Arbiter, requires calamity fragments. These come from citadel bosses also, but only once you've allocated the maximum number of points in your boss atlas tree, ensuring those citadels are at their highest difficulty level. Since we're talking about pinnacle content, we also felt that the leveling curve in the late game was a bit too steep. We've smoothed this out a bit so that it's easier to get to the mid-90s. We've also added some new in-game unique items. Let's take a look at a couple.
Király.
Thunderfist is a pair of gloves that grants Crackling Palm, a skill which empowers your unarmed attacks, granting the ability to call down the storms themselves on enemies you hit. Put simply, literally every monster you hit with your unarmed skills will be struck by powerful lightning.
Yes!
Pair this with the aforementioned Hollow Palm technique to embrace your true unarmed
Végre egy
prowess
jó
in combat.
monk!
Another unique we're adding is Henekura's Sight. Equip this amulet to be granted the power of the Mother of Death herself. This is reflected by granting you a skill called Foresight. While you have Foresight, your dodge roll no longer avoids hits. But instead, being hit while dodge rolling restores you to full life and makes you unable to die for a brief period of time.
Az igen.
You'll notice when this does occur, a copy of your character appears and takes the full damage. This is you seeing that future, as if you hadn't been wearing the amulet.
Hoppá, ha nem sikerült.
Ultimately, your in-game experience should be more streamlined. With new content to find, you'll be able to invest in your atlas trees sooner, engage with pinnacle content faster, have less FOMO running said pinnacle content, reach higher levels easier, and do all of that while finding many new chase endgame items.
Oké.
Talking about finding items is
Oké.
one thing,
Na, crafting.
But what
Na,
about
az
crafting
egyik üzék.
we've taken a step back and
Kritikus
looked at some
rész.
of our crafting systems to make some notable improvements. Let's start with essences, which suffered from an issue where the regular essences were effectively useless and didn't give players the tools or excitement that a crafting system should provide. To alleviate these concerns, essences are being changed in a few ways. Firstly, they're being changed to function like regals and add specific modifiers with specific values, meaning you know exactly what you're going to get. We found that players were often bottlenecked by regal orbs when crafting in the campaign, so this helps to fill that gap, allowing you to better upgrade your items. For example, this Lesser Essence of Flames, which will be able to add a flat amount of fire damage to your magic martial weapons. Secondly, we're adding many more tiers. That Lesser Essence of Flames, for example, has a regular variant and a greater variant too, adding even more fire damage with each upgrade. The intention of this is so that when you find one early on, you don't worry about holding on to it till later to use on a higher level item. You should feel free to use them as they come to get powerful upgrades during the campaign. Lastly, our highest tier of essences, now called Perfect Essences, will function like a Chaos Orb instead of a Regal. So it will replace one of the modifiers on your rare items with the specified mod. Such as this Perfect Essence of Flames. You'll notice this one doesn't just add flat fire damage like the ones before it. The Perfect Essences often give something a bit different, with some opportunities to be pretty damn powerful. There are many different essences, each with many tiers, covering many of the more core modifiers you'd want on items early on, through to chase specialized ones for in-game. Speaking of in-game, we really wanted to expand our crafting options for late in-game crafting projects. You might have noticed that at in-game, you get way too many transmutes. Wouldn't it be nice if some of those didn't drop, but instead you got something a little more powerful? At higher levels, you can now find Greater Orb of Transmutation and Perfect Orb of Transmutation. These can be used on normal items to upgrade them to magic, ensuring that the modifier generated is of a minimum level. This is similar to how you find higher tier items on the ground, but for crafting. These higher tiers will also exist for Orb of Augmentation, Regal Orb, Exalted Orb,
Hoppá!
and Chaos Orb.
Na ez mit
Meaning you
szóltok,
can get
akinek
all
van
of the orbs
tapasztalat a
required to take your item
craftingban?
from normal rarity
Na ez
to a fully
érdekes.
completed rare with guaranteed high tier mods. On top of these new core crafting
Ez
currencies,
már
we
érdekesebbnek
wanted to
tűnik.
make sure there are powerful crafting bases to use them on.
Na,
Now in
tessék.
endgame, you can start to find exceptional items.
Gyorszláda sem
These are
lesz elég
items that drop at
ezeknek?
normal rarity and are perfect for your from-scratch crafting project.
Dehogy nem, hát egy ládába
They can
elfér.
come with extra quality, up to 30%, or an additional socket to use your crafting socketables in. And yes, they can be corrupted for yet another socket. You can also get exceptional unique items. To add even further to your crafting arsenal, we've added a whole suite of new omens to ritual content, and removed some of the more unimpactful ones that weren't being used. Some of the new omens include the Omen of the Ancients, which will cause your next Orb of Chance to not destroy the item,
Hoppá,
but
de
generate a
király.
random unique of the same class.
Fiam,
Or
megy
the Omen
már!
of Sanctification, which is my new favorite. This will cause your next Divine Orb used on a rare item to re-roll the values of its modifiers, allowing it to exceed the normal minimum and maximum values,
Hoppá.
raising the ceiling on the new most powerful rare items in the game. This omen will also cause your item to become sanctified. Sanctified items cannot be crafted, just like corrupted ones, so consider carefully when you use this. Another is the Omen of Chaotic Monsters, which will cause your next Chaos Orb to reroll all modifiers on a Waystone, allowing you to fix your maps if you get some modifiers that are not feasible for your build.
Oh,
Besides these examples, there is a huge variety of new omens for you to discover in your ritual encounters. With the release of Act 4, notably taking place in the
megvetted a
Carvery
függe? Nem
Archipelago,
tudom, majd
you'll be able to
megnézzük
now
biztos.
find a new currency item, Henikora's Lock. Henikora, the Carvery goddess of death, has the power of foresight and is able to see many futures,
Én is
including the
megvettem
outcome of your
mindent
next
már
craft.
szerintem, amit lehet.
So, imbuing her lock onto an item gives you that same power too.
Mit
For
csinált?
example, you'll know whether or not to use an Exalted Orb on your item, as you will know exactly what the outcome is.
És mit
So,
csinált?
with all these new crafting improvements, it's safe to say you're going to be making some epic items, and not necessarily just ones for yourself. So given that, it's time to talk about a massive one. Trade. It's finally here. The moment we've all been waiting for.
Na.
Fully asynchronous trade. Over
Hoppá!
the years, the way players trade with each other in Path of Exile 1 has morphed from using the forums, through to the in-game chat, all the way through to using the website. These systems, in all their iterations, work for a while, but with each iteration, new problems eventually reveal themselves. Be it requiring you to be in your hideout too much instead of out there killing monsters, or never getting responses from people who are either AFK or just can't be bothered.
Igen.
In order to finally solve this, and this has been a long time coming, we're adding a new system that allows you to buy items from other players without requiring the seller to be present. They can continue farming, killing monsters, AFK as they please,
Nem mondod.
and can even be offline.
Nem
With the
mondod.
introduction of King's March in Act 4, you will encounter Ange, assistant to Rog in the Meridian Free
De
Traders
ez hogy fog
Company.
működni?
Over the last 2 decades or so, since Path of Exile 1's storyline, Faustus has handed down his knowledge and expertise to Ange, and she is now ready to take over his business. If you have a hideout unlocked already, you can immediately invite her there. If you don't have a hideout yet, you will need to acquire one. You can do this by completing a quest to defeat one of the bosses inhabiting an island in Act 4, allowing you then to take a slice of it for yourself, making it your new home and base of operations. Once invited to your hideout, she will now serve as operating your currency exchange, but also serve as the figurehead in your new trading empire.
Van itt shop.
So, how does this new system work? In the existing trade system, you would list items for sale in premium stash tabs. And then when someone wanted one, you'd have to take it out for yourself and trade it to them.
Igen.
Now, instead of using those, you can give your items to Ange so she can sell them for you. Each item must have a price set. The prices are set using in-game currency items, such as exalted orbs or chaos orbs. Once a price is set, other players will be able to find the item by searching for it on the trade website. Once a desired item has been found, you can hit a button, which will instantly teleport your character in-game to their hideout. Then, you can immediately purchase the item. And while there, if you want, browse their other goods, in case there's a good deal someone else hasn't yet discovered. You'll notice that as a buyer, on top of the currency the seller set for the price, it also costs gold to purchase an item, as Ange has bills to pay after all. As a seller, you'll immediately receive a notification when an item of yours is sold, and can also see an effect above Ange in your hideout when she has unclaimed currency.
Hát az, hogyha valamit keresel az AH-ban, nem kell online-nak lenni a playernek, nem kell odajönnie, hanem odamész az ő hideoutjába, ráklikkelsz oda a merchantre, és megjelennek a cuccai, ami benn vannak, és te meg tudod oldani, hogy az összes itemet, amit árul, azt is meg tudod nézni, meg ki tudod venni magadnak a cuccot megfelelő ellenszolgáltatásért cserébe, és neki nem kell ott lennie, se online, se semmi. Kész. Így van. És ő csak kiveszi onnan a megfelelő ellenszolgáltatásért cserébe. Hát ez óriási. Ez óriási.
Premium stash tabs will not lose any of their functionality. We just figured people might want to switch over to this new system.
Lemaradtam, valami merchant tabbre kell upgrade-elni, vagy valami ilyesmi.
And are looking forward to trying it out with you. As we are not able to test internally with an entire thriving economy, there will certainly be some kinks to work out. Based on how the system goes, we will be adding it to Path of Exile 1 when ready. So any of the tabs you purchase will also be usable there later. Next up, we're going to be talking about our new supporter packs. Today, we're launching 2 new series of supporter packs. The Justice and Trathan Executioner packs. Each tier contains the pack's full face value in points, alongside several exclusive microtransactions. As always, the microtransactions in these packs are purely cosmetic and do not affect your character's power or progression in any way. The Justice series of supporter packs contains 6 exclusive microtransactions. Claim glory after defeating enemies, or inspire your allies by calling down the Banner of Justice portal. The Sphinx Mystic hideout decoration will identify items for you, displaying them as it does so. This ancient creature has been presented with many items over the eons, so has some strong expressions to make of the quality of your wares. Become a true warrior, worthy of delivering the justice of the eternal gods with the Apostle of Justice armor set. This armor set also comes with a matching back attachment containing a set of scales to measure your worth.
Nagyon fontos. Inkább a druidáról beszélj, vagy valami.
Finisher effect equipped, the Goddess of Justice herself will appear to decide on a verdict for slain unique enemies.
Hát ez csodálatos.
Witness as she decides the fate of your slain foes. Will they ascend to be amongst the gods, or be banished to the underworld?
Hát ez csodás.
The Griffin fledgling pet will be your courageous companion as you journey throughout Rayclast. Take your place in the skies in the plateau of the gods hideout. This hideout comes with many different sections for setting up your home or base of operations. In order to travel between them, you simply just need to walk off the edge. Like a true eternal god, you can float between the mountains on the clouds themselves.
Ja, és semmire se jó pet,
The
az
Executioner
kell, ja.
pack series also contains 6 exclusive microtransactions. The Trathan Executioner finisher effect is a brutal display of
Ez
Trathan
mondjuk
might,
keményen néz ki.
crushing slain unique enemies as if they were bugs
Bam!
beneath your
Ez mondjuk jól néz ki.
As a Trathan Executioner, you're the perfect master for the ever-hungry carrion raptor pet. It has taken a particular liking to the taste of other pets, and at your command it will swoop down and eviscerate them, proceeding to satisfy its hunger by feeding on their corpse.
LOL.
The nobles of the 4 major Trathan houses had their mercenaries, but if their hired hands became notably irritating, they'd have to call in the Trathan Executioners. You can now embrace their methods.
Az a bajom
and
ezekkel
become
az
brutality
armorokkal, hogy jól
incarnate
néznek
with
ki,
the
csak
cruel trial of
érted,
executioner
régen az
armor
volt a lényeg, hogy megszerezzél in-game egy ilyet, és úgy nézzél ki, ahogy nem az, hogy megvegye bárki, és mindenki kinézhet úgy. Ezzel rontják el az egészet. De értem, hogy ezt pénzt csinálnak belőle, csak értitek a lényeget, hogy a WoW-ba is, az, hogy ott volt a Thunder Fury a kezemben, meg a full T3-ba voltam a Vanillába, a Warriorral, és ott álltam Orgrimmárban, az egy jelkép volt, az egy szimbólum, és ezt veszik el ezzel, ezt szüntetik meg. Ez a probléma, szerintem. Ez a probléma. Ezt nem értik. Hogy próbálnak belőle pénzt csinálni, de valójában ezzel rosszat tesznek a játéknak. Még szerintem tudok is mutatni izét. Screenshotot. Mindjárt keresek, várjál. Mindjárt keresek egy screenshotot arról. De ezt beszartok, ott állok full T3-ba Thunder Fury-val. Ja, meg az Illidan penge, így van, így van. Tehát pont az ott a lényeg, hogy ezeket megszerez, nem az, hogy megvedd a skint. Az senkit nem érdekel, hogy megveszed a skint, az nem ér semmit. Az, hogy megszerzed, az ér valamit.
Any microtransactions from the supporter packs will be made available for use in Path of Exile 1. That's enough about cosmetics. Let's get into the Q&A. But firstly, I want to give a huge thank you for your ongoing support. We're just about to start the Q&A with Ziggy D. Afterwards, at 11 AM NZ time, or 4 PM Pacific, we'll post Path of Exile 2, the Third Edict's patch notes.
De mikor
release
ez a 2008,
our
az
community
régi.
team will be posting crucial information you need for the release.
Micsoda?
Keep an eye on the news. Thanks for joining us
Hát
today
jó,
and
persze,
checking out
de
our
azért nem
latest
akárki
developments.
tudja az Illidan
We're
pengét
looking forward to seeing
kifarmolni.
your
Azért nehogy azt
experiences
hidd.
with Act 4 and its new
Gondolom,
bosses,
te azért
fighting
vágod.
the abyssal, trying
Nálunk
new
is
builds,
érted, szegény
crafting
egyik
new
barátom,
items. We'll begin
végig
the Q&A
farmoltuk
shortly,
neki,
so please get your questions ready.
végig farmoltuk neki az Illidan pengét, és csak az egyik esett ki, a másik nem. Nem olyan könnyű aztán kifarmolni. Pedig minden héten nem volt érte. Minden héten a BC-be. Minden héten. Na jó, de várjál, te már azt nem a BC-be szerezted meg, hanem az új WoW-ba gondolom. Ja persze, mert már... Mi történt a hangjával a csávónak, hallod? Hát most van a Questions and Answers rész. Tehát igazából, ja, az már itt él, de az már nem ugyanaz. Na jó, hát ezt nem hallgatjuk, de érted? Szóval, Raza, én azt, a Thunder Fury-t, én azt a Vanillába farmoltam ki. Azt nem a retail-en, érted? Meg a T3 Geart. Az nem ugyanaz a kettő. Hú, de rossz a hangja. Nem tudom, érdekel ez minket még, srácok, egyébként? Érdekel ez minket még ez a része? Ennek az egyébként ez az egész? Ez a rész, érdekel ez még minket? Mert nagyon rossz a csávó hangja is. Közben keresem, hogy valahol biztos megvan ez nekem. Vajon hova lett ez? WoW Classic? Nem, ez nem az. Hát akkor lehet, hogy nem jön új klassz, igen. Még lehet ez is, hogy akkor most nem jön új klassz. Az a baj, hogy itt 2013... Ja. Hát ez még nem az, sajna. Nem tudom, hova tűntek azok a képeim, az a baj. Na majd megkeresem, srácok. Itt biztos nincs. Hova a fenébe? Hova a fenébe lehet? Nem mondtak új karaktert egyébként, nem mondtak. Nem mondtak. Igen, újabb skillek voltak, meg hogy a gemeket lehet többet használni, majd, meg ilyenek, de nagyjából ezek voltak. WoW, Shadowed UI Options, meg ilyen szarok. Én nem tudom, hova lettek a screenshotjaim. Valahol biztos megvan, csak most nem találom egyébként. Na jó, mindegy, most nem keresgélem, de majd megkeresem. De pont ez lett volna a lényeg. Hát ja, de hát figyelj! Ja, sok minden jön. Tehát azért összefoglalva, srácok, ugye új skillek, új passzív nódok, rengeteg új passzív nód, ami megint csak megvariálja ugye a dolgokat, új unikok, fejlődéshez, új act, tehát az act 4 jön, azt mondták, hogy ugye jön az act 4, endgame contentbe jönnek változások, ugye a crafting rendszerbe jönnek változások, az essence-ekkel, mindennel kapcsolatban lesznek ezek ugye ezek a perfect crafting materiálok, amik megváltoztatják a dolgokat. Tehát ezek azért elég nagy dolgok, a trade-del kapcsolatos változtatás, hogy nem kell online-nak lenni, nem kell oda menni, automatikussá válik úgymond a trade. Szóval ezek szerintem iszonyatosan jó változtatások, ezek föl fogják dobni a játékot, egész biztos vagyok benne, és csomó minden úgymond ilyen quality of life, mint ez a trade is, ez egy quality of life rész igazából. Igen, tehát lehet, hogy igen, tehát pont ez a lényeg, hogy én se tudok non-stop online lenni, senki se tud non-stop online lenni, de így bármikor megvehetik a cuccaidat. Hát egyébként úgy legyen, igen. Szóval azért ezek szerintem elég jó változtatások a játékban. Kiderül az majd szerintem, de így ezzel, hogy a gemeket is jobban lehet szabadabban felhasználni, mármint a support gemeket, arra gondolok. Ezáltal gondolom én, hogy talán még a buildeket is lehet még jobbá tenni, a skálázódásuk az endgame-be is más lesz, plusz ugye lesznek ezek, ahogy ott mutatta, hogy a tírjeikkel, ahogy egyre nő és mennyivel jobb, meg stb. Tehát akár sok új build, így van, sok új build, sok variáció, tehát sokkal több variáció lehetséges majd ezekből, ami szintén megint csak változatosabbá teszi majd a játékot. Ja, szóval sok mindenről szó volt egyébként, ami elég jó, hogy mondjam, elég jó változásokat, jó felé hozza a változásokat a játékban, vagy jó irányba fognak változni dolgok. Szerintem nem olyan rossz, meg dolgoztak a srácok vele. Ugye ez lesz az első official, tehát hivatalos liga igazából. Ugye tartják ezt a szezonális, itt ligának hívják végülis ezt a szezonális, de ez nem baj. Most én arra vagyok egyébként kíváncsi, mi a véleményetek, hogy azért rengeteg klassz van még, ami nincs benne a játékba, és azt viszont idénre ígérték az 1.0-át, nem de? Tehát azt idénre ígérték az 1.0-át, vagy nem rosszul emlékszem? Tehát akkor az mikor fog jönni? Ranger, na tessék. Mongoliász. Még jön a karácsony. Karácsonyra tartogatok nektek valamit. Még addig nem fedem föl. Hát oké, lehet december. Hát azt ígérték minimum 1 év, de hát pont 1 év az ugye nem most arra gondoltam, hanem év végére, mert akkor lesz 1 év, mert ugye december 6-án indult el, ha jól emlékszem, vagy hogy? December 6-án indult el az egész. Na mindegy is, hogy december 4 vagy december 6, Kraus, szia, hello. Tehát addig még azért akkor be kell rakniuk a karikat, meg mit tudom én. De ami december 4 vagy december 8 vagy 6 valami ilyesmi volt. Tehát, hogy hát nem tudom, egyelőre nekem azért tudjátok, én monk, tehát, hogy lehet, hogy én monk. Továbbra is. Az nagyon baszód nézett ki. Ráadásul a Herald of Ice-szal, meg a Herald of Thunderrel azért ott megint csak tirpitott az ember. Szóval nem tudom, nekem tetszik egyébként. Nekem tetszik. És tényleg rengeteg változtatás, jönni fog ugye a ligával kapcsolatban ez a liga mechanika, amit ott láttunk, hogy az itemeket is lehet ugye bónusz attribútumokkal felruházni, meg a, itt tudom én, mindent is, tehát az is érdekes dolog lesz. De most nem láttad, ott ment a Herald is, és mindent zúzott szana szét, hát lehet, hogy lenerfelték, de most megint változik bugi. Igen, és könnyebben hozzáférsz majd az endgame contenthez, tehát aki nem tud non-stop heti 168 órát ott tölteni, az is jobban hozzá fog férni, ugye gyűjtöd majd ezeket a splintereket, amit általánosságban, és te kiválaszthatod, hogy milyen tírben akarod csinálni ugye a Pinnacle Boss-t, stb. Tehát ezek tök jó változtatások szerintem. A Waystone-okkal kapcsolatos, hogy ugye megturbózza azokat a bónuszokat, az item rarity-t, a quantity-t, akár a bármit, hogy ezeket is ott megturbó, az is tök jó szerintem. 29-ben van írva egy hét Szabid. Helyes. Hát nem tudom, érdekes. Meg hát például ott volt az a Charge-os Warrior, az is érdekes volt, az is tetszett. Az se volt rossz egyébként, hogyha ilyeneket lehet így összehozni. 26 Gears of War, az engem hála Istennek nem érdekel. Igen, a Passive Tree-t is keményen besűrítették még jobban. Tehát azzal is megint csak talán több változatosság lesz a buildekben. Talán. Igen, Last Epoch is elvileg egy napon jön. Holnaptól van Last Epoch, igen? Hát és jön a Tarkovban is, most láttam ma a videót, srácok, hogy a Tarkovban is az 1.0 előtti utolsó patch, és csomó mindent változtatnak, amitől jobb lesz, úgyhogy Tarkovban is jönnek ám az újítások. Nem tudom, én Last Epochot nem követtem annyira egyébként. Hát ezt nem lehet ki. Ennyi, na jó, hagyjanak ennyi új játékot, hallod, meg ennyi új patchet, na jó, most már hagyjanak békén, de tényleg. Most már elég legyen, álljanak le. Álljál le. Hát brutál. Nekem bejön igazából. Ezt mindenféleképpen tolni fogjuk. Ez most nagyon izgatja a fantáziámat, hogy milyen lesz így a poe feeling. Poe 2 nyilván. Ez nagyon izgatja a fantáziám. Na jó, várjál. Hol van a timeout gomb? Megkeresel? Mármint milyen értelemben keresel meg? Ja, hogyne, hát én poézni fogok 29-től. Addig tarkovozunk majd, de 29-től mindenféleképpen. Jó, Pete Nightwolf, hello. Én mindenképpen poézni fogok 29-től. 29-e az melyik nap? Kérlek szépen, 29 az ráadásul péntek, jövő hét péntek, úgyhogy... Ja, úgyhogy az király. Hát igen, fix info nem volt a druidról. Fix info nem volt. Már csak 63 000-en nézik. Rögtön a fele lelépett a question and answers az izé. Tessék. Rob... Mész vízhez betonozni? Ki ez a víz? De figyelj már, de... Robloxot ismered? Vízipocokhoz betonozni? Komolyan? Hát akkor add át neki üdvözletem. Add át neki üdvözletem. Őt már nagyon rég nem láttam egyébként, hogy nyomja, vagy mi van. Most nyomja? Vagy őnála is volt valami? Na most se nyomja. Na most se nyomja. Már nagyon rég nem láttam őt. Ja, hogy ismered? Hogyne, biztos fogja tolni, persze. Hát jó, de honnan tudtam volna, Ede? Most őszintén. Pár hete még volt, igen? Én nem láttam már régóta őt most. Na hát akkor mondd meg neki, hogy üdvözlöm ott a nagy betonozás kellős közepén. Hát ez mindenféleképpen érdekes lesz, srácok. Király. Nagyon várom. Ja, hogy most találkoztak először? Ja, értem. Akkor nem ismered. Mármint IRL még nem ismered. Aha. És hogy jött ez a betonozás? Nem is értem. Ja, Robloxot ismered. Én egyébként nem ismertem, de pont ma néztem a Büki Daninak egy videóját a Roblox botrányról, így megláttam, hogy miről van szó. Hát gondolom hány éves lehetett az a srác, aki ezt kérdezgette tőlem, úgy 8. Körülbelül, csak azt nem értem, hogy ő hogy jött éjjel 2-kor a streamre. 8 évesen. Vagy 10, mindegy. Csinál valami garást, és nincs, aki helpeljen? Kemény. Hát akkor jó betonozást. Aztán nehogy bebetonozzon téged, aztán jössz majd nézni a poét, meg játszani. Úgyis jártas az építőiparban. Hát akkor király. Én is betonoztam már, bár nem túl sok kedvem lenne betonozni. Nem a legkönnyebb melók egyike. Betonoztam már kerítést, házépítkezésnél is betonoztam. Nem könnyű meló, az biztos. Nyilván jobb az eszedet használni, mint hogy betont kelljen talicskázni, meg mit tudom én. Meg húztam a tetőre, télen. Húztam föl a tetőre, vödörbe, bazd meg a betont, öntöttem a kefnik közé. Atya úristen, hallod? Olyan izomlázam volt, Jézusom. Teljesen ki voltam. Hát mondjuk nem fáztam közben. Hát nem kell kérdéssel, valakinek nincs más választása igazából. Valakinek nincs más választása. Én azt hittem, hogy lesz új karakter megint, vagy új klassz igazából. Az egy kicsit talán csalódás, hogy az nem lesz, bár azért nem akkora csalódás, azért ezt tegyük hozzá, de egy picit így azért az emberek várták szerintem, hogy legyen egy új klassz, de hozzáteszem, hogy sokat dolgoztak a srácok, úgyhogy nézzük meg milyen lesz, nem de? Nézzük meg milyen lesz. Ja, szerintem is. Egyelőre jónak tűnik, aztán majd nyilván puding próbálja az evés. Kíváncsi leszek rá. Hát viszont ha nem lesz új kari, akkor hát nem tudom, gondolom monkozni fogok, vagy nem tudom, lehet, hogy Warriort kéne játszani? Mert az is jónak tűnt egyébként, és Varival még nem játszottam. Már megint a tornádó. Bugi, téged átnevezlek tornádóra. Úgy foglak hívni, tornádó. Lehet, igen. Nem tudom. Lehet, hogy több karit is nyomok, hát hogyha jó lesz, akkor miért ne? Én szeretek az ilyenekkel játszani. Hát igen, nem jó kezdek másikat, így van. Meglátjuk. Jó, az hogy nem tiltott ki téged a hallod? Krau, te valami vagy? Valami tiltáskerülő. Pont után ugye a szóköz, azt alá is húzta. Vagy azt így nem látjátok? Mert nekem kidobta egyébként a Crown-nak az üzenetét. Hogy csináltad? Ugye elvileg csak a feliratkozók tudnak. Jó, Ranger? Az kell. Hát a Ranger nyilván az is volt legutoljára, ugye mivel jobb volt, mint a Monk. Így a legutóbb Rangerem volt. Na hát ez érdekes első liga lesz. Meglátjuk, hogy felfedezzük együtt, srácok. Felfedezzük együtt, mit szóltok? Nyilas Lightning Ranger? Na. Ja, hát meglátjuk, milyenek lesznek a passzívjaik, vagy a... Igen. Mert most ugye azok is változnak azért. Tehát, hogy azt ott mutatta, hogy azért némely ilyen, hogy mondjam, ascendancy-k is változnak egy picit részben. Hát nem tudom. Meg kell majd ezeket vizsgálni. Az a baj ezekkel a játékokkal, érted, hogyha nem napi 12 órát töltesz azzal, hogy így hogy megtud, hogy mi micsoda, és mi merre hány óra, akkor tényleg rá vagy utalva arra, hogy mások buildjeit használd, mert egyszerűen annyira mocskosul összetett, hogy az valami hihetetlen. Nagyon durva. Ha mindegy, majd én szeretem a kihívást, tudjátok, hogy először biztos, hogy nem fogok nézni semmilyen buildet, aztán majd meglátjuk. Csak az a baj, hogy kéne egy olyan build, ami hatékony, és jól lehet vele haladni. És endgame-re is valamit kéne kitalálni. Hát kíváncsi leszek rá. Na jó, hát erre mindenképp ránézzünk. 29-én jövő hét pénteken érkezik. Addig még ugye szimulátorozás van, meg mármint utána is lesz. Csak addig ugye a Tarkov lesz a szimulátorozás mellett. Ja, senki, ja. Viszont 29-től a jövő hét péntektől akkor ráugrunk a PoE 2-re, és akkor csapatjuk ezt az úgymond első ligát, srácok. Úgyhogy, ja, mindenképp megérte megnézni ezt az egészet. Jó, én alig várom, srácok, dumálunk még róla, szerintem úgyis fogunk róla dumálni. Én szerintem meg elteszem magam holnapra. Holnap is van futam, aztán majd megpróbálunk tarkovozni, úgyhogy hát olyan volt a mai futam, amilyen volt, ez van, holnap reméljük jobb lesz. Azért remélem élveztétek a mai adást is, köszönöm szépen, hogy itt voltatok, mindenkinek további jó twitchezés, youtubozás, játszás, pihenést, és legközelebb találkozunk, srácok, addig is legyetek jók, kákány!
Yo, step into the stream, it's sipping 127. Twitch TV where the gaming's like heaven. From shooters to strategy, he's got the range. Tune in, hit the follow, it's time for a change. Sippy 7's live, bringing that heat. Hunt, showdown skills you can't compete. Assetto, Corsa races, feel the speed. Join the community, fulfill your need. Started from the bottom, now the views keep rising. Stream so lit, it's no surprise, man. Sippy's got the vibe, you know we stay thriving. Chat's always popping, energy's high and Sippy 7's live, bringing that heat. Hunt, showdown skills you can't compete. Assetto, Corsa races, feel the speed. Join the community, fulfill your need. Started from the bottom, now the views keep rising. Stream so lit, it's no surprise, man. Sippy's got the vibe, you know we stay thriving. Chat's always popping, energy's high and Sippy 7's live, bringing that heat. Hunt, showdown skills you can't compete. Assetto, Corsa races, feel the speed. Join the community, fulfill your need. Late nights, bright lights, gaming non-stop. Sippy 7's the name, we rise to the top. Followers glowing, the grind don't drop. Join the fun, be a part of the crop. So hit that follow, don't miss the show. With Sippy 7, man, you already know. Showdown, Assetto, Corsa, let's go. Twitch TV /Sippy 7, join the flow.